Okay, for this next problem, I wrote a little too wide, so I'm going to actually erase my value here at the end and move it below. But let me go ahead and walk you through the setup on this particular one. Let's say this is an annual bond, so it pays a coupon once a year. And let's say it's got 10 years to maturity. And the only information I have is that the bond's price right now is as follows. I'm going to move this number over here. $876.29. $876.29. Now, I just made that number up. But basically, if the bond's selling for $876.29 and it's a $1,000 face value bond, as all of ours will be for this class, all you know is that rates have what? Your answer should be they've gone up relative to the coupon rate. How do I know they've gone up? Because the price has gone down. And what is the coupon rate anyways of this bond? Do I have any information here in this problem as you look at it that helps you with that? The answer is yes. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Hopefully you can see this. Do you see my coupon payment right here? And I already told you it was an annual coupon. So what's the coupon rate? If you answered 4%, you're absolutely on target. This is a 4% bond. So what does that mean in terms of interest rates? Well, it means that interest rates went up and it's going to be something higher than 4%. Now, if I didn't have my handy-dandy financial calculator, could I solve this? I could. It's just going to take me more time. And so what ends up happening is that I would probably start with 5% because I know rates went up, and I would plug in 5% and I would solve and see what I come up with. And if then I went too high, it's kind of like the Price is Right. Remember the higher lower game? If I went too high, then I'd have to adjust back. Now when I do these problems long form, I usually start with 5% whole numbers, and then depending on what I get, I might go to 4.5% if I went too high. If I didn't go high enough, I would go to maybe 5.5% or even 6% and try again. So the nice thing is you know directionally which way you need to go, and you also know your starting point, because the starting point is always relative to coupon rate. So if I'm at a 4% coupon, I know I have to go higher than that, so 5%, 6%, it's going to be something higher. Okay, so you really just have to go back and forth when you don't have a financial calculator. So when I do these problems in classes where I don't require financial calculators, do I ever give these? I do. But most of the time I've calculated a rate that's going to fall either on a whole number or a half number, so that as long as the student knows which direction they were supposed to guess first, they can usually find it in 1 or 2 tries. But think about a price like this. Heaven only knows what the rate could be. It might be, and I haven't solved it yet myself, by the way, the rate could be 5.1726. Well, I would probably have to do 5 iterations of this problem to get that exact precise number. I could get close, but depending how precise I wanted to get, it might take multiple times of doing the problem. So that's where the calculator is really handy. It's a lot faster. It's not that we can't do it long form. The calculator is doing exactly what we're doing. It just does it faster. But you're going to see for these problems, what's real interesting on the yield to maturity calculation problems, you're going to see it pause for a second. And the reason why is because your calculator is doing exactly what we do. Higher, lower, higher, lower, higher, lower, boom. It just does it so fast that you don't see it going back and forth. But if you watch closely on your screen when you hit the compute IY, you will see a slight pause, and that's exactly what's going on with your calculator. So let's go ahead and try this particular problem. Go ahead and enter into your calculator along with me exactly what I'm going to enter. So I'm going to put in 40 as my payment. I'm going to put in 10 as my N. I'm going to put in 1,000 as my future value. Now look what I know. I know the PV. It's 876.29, and yes, I have to enter it with a minus sign. So I'm going to type 876.29 with a minus sign, hit my PV key. Now I hit yield. Compute I/Y, and it pauses for a second, and it comes back with 5.65%. So if I had done my guessing game on this one, and my first guess would have been to go to 5%, I would have found that at 5% I had the wrong answer. In fact, at 5%, the price I would have gotten back is $922.78, meaning I still have to go a little higher with the rate to get the price a little lower. The price isn't $922, the price is $876. So the next thing I probably would have done is either tried 5.5, or I would have tried maybe 6. Probably 5.5, but only because it isn't to that big of a difference, and I've done these long enough that that would probably be my next guess. I would expect most students to probably go to 6 next, and then they'd probably go to 5.5, and then they'd probably come back to the 5, or to the correct rate. But you can see where you would have to, with a rate like the one that we got, you can see where, you might potentially be having to do these problems multiple times. So at the rate of 5.65, realistically, I might have done 5.5, then 5 3/4, 5.75, and then I would have said, oh, I went too far in that direction. Then I would have maybe tried 5.6, and I would have done 5.65. You're following my math here. It just takes a lot of time. Calculator's much faster. So this is really handy for problems like yield to maturity. If you don't have a financial calculator, you do the guessing game. But the good news is that when I have classes where I don't require a financial calculator, I never make the numbers like this. They would never have to do more than 2 iterations if they guess in the right direction. If they go in the wrong direction, they could be there all day. All right, so you get the picture hopefully on how these work. So now we've talked about yield to maturity. We've talked about solving for present value. So really now, as long as you know any 4 of your parameters, you can find anything you want on bond valuation. Most of the time though in the bond valuation problems, you're either being asked to solve yield to maturity, you're being asked to solve price, what's the bond worth today, or you're being asked sometimes to figure out the coupon rate. Like they'll give you the going price, they'll give you the going rates of interest, they'll give you everything but what the coupon payment is, and you have to solve for coupon payment. No different in your calculator. You're just going to solve for the one variable you don't know. Where it gets a little dicey though are when you move from annual to semi-annual rates. So I'm going to have you try a problem, and I'm going to ask you to pause this video for a moment and see if you don't get the right answer on it. But basically we're going to work with what we're working with here, only instead of it being a 10-year annual bond, I'm going to make it a semi-annual bond. It pays interest semi-annually, and I'm going to say that every 6 months, instead of getting a $40 payment, you're getting a $30 payment. So the first thing, if it was me, that I'd ask myself is, what's the coupon rate on this bond? What is the coupon rate on the bond? If you answered 3%, you're wrong. Remember, coupon rates are always quoted annually. So it's going to be 6%. Because if I'm getting $30 every 6 months on this bond, it's a 6% coupon. So now if I have this price, I'm checking answers higher than 6% in my calculator. Now the other adjustment I'm going to make for this, just to give us a little more time, well, no, I'll leave it at 10. Let's leave it at 10 years to maturity, but what adjustment do I need to make in my calculations? I need to adjust the time here, because it's not 10 years, it's 10 years or 20 payments in this case. So I'm going to change my exponent here to 20, and now I'm going to resolve this problem. So I'm getting a total of 20 payments, $30 each. That's 10 years, semi-annual interest payments of $30. Coupon rate is 6%. And again, if I were doing this guessing, I would probably start at 7% on the bond and sort of see how close I get. But I'm not going to do that on this one. I'm going to actually do it on the calculator. So I'm going to go ahead and enter 30 as my payment. I'm going to enter 20 as my time period. 1,000 for my future value. My present value is this 876 with a negative in front of it. And now I'm going to compute interest. And it should be something higher, of course, than 6%. Now notice what your calculator gives you back, 3.9%. So I know that's not the answer. It has to be higher than 6%. What's wrong? Oh, that's right. It's semi-annual. I have to double it. So take this rate times 2, 7.8, and that's your answer. This bond is yielding 7.8%. Hopefully this is starting to make sense. So go ahead and try a couple of problems from the book that say semi-annual interest and see if you aren't getting these okay now. Now you know how to do them with formula, you know how to do them with calculators, and you should be able to solve any kind of the simple problems that are in the book. Nothing too crazy, but things that are like, find the price or find the current yield to maturity on both annual and semi-annual. You should be able to do any of those at this point. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is pause for a moment. I'm going to change some formulas on the board, and we're going to talk for a moment about yield to call.